Hi, Keith here from Academy of Bass. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm looking at something that's going to help you nail the character of the James Jamerson sound, but it's probably the complete opposite of anything that you've seen before. When I started playing bass, I used both my fingers and a pick, a plectrum, and there were times when I used a pick quite a lot. But as soon as I decided that I wanted to earn my living from playing bass, something switched inside my head, and I became all purist and said, I've got to be able to make every single sound that I make with my hands, or else I'm not a worthy professional musician. And to some extent, I still believe that, because having control over your hands and having a good technique will help you produce great sounds on the bass. But you can't replicate the sound of a pick with your hands. Only a pick sounds like a pick. Now, before I get into this, there is a completely free PDF for this lesson. It's got everything in that I'm going to be looking at, fully notated in both standard notation and tab, and I've also included the backing track that I'm using in this lesson as part of that download. You'll find the link to that in the description below, so feel free to grab a copy of that. I was noodling around online recently, as you do, and I stumbled across the Carol Kaye Pick, so I immediately jumped on her website and ordered a pack. When it arrived, I pulled out a pick and I really didn't like it. It was this, so it's a teardrop shaped pick. I much prefer a rounder pick normally, but I popped it in my hand, played a note, and I really didn't like it, so I turned it around, because I'll often play with the rounder edge of a pick because I find that I can push that a little bit further back into my fingers, and that helps my control and my sound. Played another note, I didn't like that either, and I kept moving backwards and forwards, and then I put the pick down. But I couldn't help myself pick it up again, so I really didn't like it, but I couldn't stop myself picking it up. It was obviously seducing me with its charm. And the other thing about this pick is that there's no information on the website about what it's made from, so it looks like it's some kind of plastic material or other composite. And also the gauge, the thickness, is a complete mystery, but it definitely sprinkles its fairy dust on your sound, and I really don't want to like it, but I do. Now, of course, you can't get the Jamerson sound with the pick, or can you? Well, we'll see in a minute, but you can get something similar, and there's absolutely something in this Carol Kaye Pick. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it's obviously a combination of the material that it's made from, the thickness, and also how you hold it and how you play with it. But when you strike a string with it, you definitely get a little bit more meat on the string, which means that the sound of the note that's produced is much thicker and darker and warmer. So let's have a quick listen. I'm going to play an octave. If I do that same thing with the standard pick, there is a difference. For me, this is just a little bit warmer, but I'm going to play a line now. And now the standard pick. So for me, this definitely wins out. It's definitely warmer and smoother, but I'm going to conduct a much more scientific test now. I'm going to do this 4 ways. So firstly, I'm going to play with the tip of the pick. Then I'm going to move it around and play with the rounder edge. And I'm going to compare that with a standard pick. And also using my fingers too. I'm going to use a few different instruments. The first is going to be this bass, which is essentially a Fender P bass. It's got a jazz neck and it's strung with round wound strings. There's a little bit of life in them. And everything that I've played so far has been with the tone rolled fully up. But I'm also going to pull out a Musicman bass and also a 1962 Fender Precision bass strung with flats, because that's going to help, I hope, help us dial in the Jamerson sound. Apart from the 4 picking variations that I'm going to be using, I'm also using 3 tone variations with each instrument. The first is with the tone fully open, the second with the tone half open, and then the third with the tone off. So if you're impatient and you want to get to the Jamerson part of this lesson, feel free to skip forward using the timestamp. I hope you can hear it because I can. This thing gives tons of thud to a bass strum with flat wound strings, and it produces a rich warm sound on a bass with extreme highs like the Musicman. I did think the rounder edge was a little bit darker and thicker in sound, but I actually preferred playing with the tip. But here's the acid test. Can this Carol Kaye Pick help you sound like James Jamerson? Well, let's check it out. I'm going to do my very best now to play a bass line in the style of James Jamerson. It's in the PDF, so make sure you grab a copy of that. I'm using my 62p bass. It's strung with flat wound strings. The tone's halfway up, and I'm using a little bit of muting. I'm going to play it once using my fingers and then a second time using the pick. I'm not so sure this Carol Kaye Pick did replicate the Jamerson sound authentically, but I really do think it came a close second. Give me a shout out in the comments and let me know what you think. Of course, Jamerson's sound is all about his fingers, his technique, his muting, and his incredible talent. But this Carol Kaye Pick definitely produces a sound that's worth having in your bass playing toolkit. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this lesson. Don't forget to grab the PDF. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to seeing you again, and in the meantime, happy practicing.